Good evening, Talking Fight Nation. It's a new week. We have a new episode of Neil the Deal, and Neil's in the house waiting for us right now. We're going to be talking middleweights, I believe. Who do you have for us tonight, Neil?
Well, first of all, good evening, Graham. Nice to see you again. Thanks for having me out. Good evening, guys. Nice to see you all again. Right on. As you can see, I have my Super Bowl outfit on today for you. Obviously, there's only one team that's going to win the game, so just keep going for them, and we'll be fine. So today, we're going to be talking a little bit about a Argentinian fighter, a guy when I was a child. When I was really young, I was watching the Ali Fraser stuff, and that's kind of where I started the Sonny Liston days. I was about 4 or 5 years old, 6 years old type thing. And then I saw this guy who was in the middleweight division from Argentina, and we're going to talk about him tonight, guys. His name is Carlos Monzón. Carlos Monzón, all right? So I'd like to thank you before we go into this for the likes, the shares, all the comments you guys have been making, telling your friends. They've been subscribing. It's been great. I want to thank you again for all that. It's awesome. Keep it up. You guys are top notch. Thanks a lot, eh? So let's talk about Mr. Monzón, Carlos. He's an Argentinian fighter. He had a nickname. Let's see. It's interesting. It's a shotgun in English, but in Spanish, and my Spanish isn't that great, but I'll try here. Escopita. Escopita. Maybe that makes sense. Escopita. He was called Escopita. That's shotgun. So we got Carlos Shotgun Monzón today on the Neil the Deal show for you. This guy, I'm telling you, when I was growing up, this guy was a mesmerizing fighter. He's one of those guys that was just he did the most amazing stuff. His career was absolutely stunning. I mean, you don't really hear his name anymore, Graham, or anything about this guy, but I can remember vividly watching his fights as a kid, and he was devastating in every facet. He had speed, punching power. He had work rate. The one thing that he had that I noticed out of all the other fighters in those days, he worked a lot harder in the ring, guys. He was always on you hard. He wouldn't give you anything. If he threw a punch, he'd throw two. His work rate was amazing. So again, we're going to talk about him. So he was born August 7th, 1942 in San Javier, Argentina. When he was a young child, he moved to a place called Santa Fe, Argentina. So he was very young. He grew up very, very poor. He had 11 brothers and sisters, all right? And his parents, they all lived basically in one little shack in that town. He actually had to quit school, Graham, at grade 3.
Wow.
To support the family in grade 3. So he quit school in grade 3. I don't know. That's about the time I quit. So we're pretty even on that one. Definitely. My parents will tell you all about grade 3. It was one of the hardest things on me. So then then what happens? So he goes out. He's got to get a job. So he starts shining shoes, selling newspapers. He was a milk boy. He'd go to people's houses and drop off the milk, stuff like that. So I'd probably milk the bulls or cows or whatever, and then go sell the stuff, right? Just to make enough to get by. So he came from a very, very poor upbringing. He had an amateur career when he was younger. He was 17 years old. It started in 1959. He was a good amateur. He had 90 fights as an amateur. He won 76 of those fights. He had 6 losses and he had 8 draws. All right, as an amateur. He turned pro in 1963. So his pro totals are even more amazing, Graham, like more amazing. So check this out. Monzón, total fights, 100. 100 fights. Wins, 87. All right. Losses, count them. 1, 2, 3. 3 losses. That's it. Wow. And he had 9 draws and 1 no contest. So this guy's his KO percentage works out to be 59 KOs, right? He had 59 KOs out of the 87 wins. So and he had 100 fights. So what would the KO percentage be, Graham?
I don't know. A lot.
Well, 59 out of 100. What's that, Graham?
So say 60%.
Nope, 59%. Sorry, you're off.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Trick
59 out of 100 gram is 59%. There you go. I'm just making sure you're paying attention out there. You know what I mean? I don't know about him or him, but I am. So anyway, that's a good one. I like that stuff with you, Graham. It's fun.
That's good. Thank you.
Yeah. So he was the undisputed middleweight champion of the world for 7 years straight, Graham. Unified. Like, he's got the titles the whole time. Well, back in those days, I believe there was just the WBC and the WBA. So he had the 2 titles, I guess. I don't know if there was the IBF. I don't think so. There was no, they didn't have those classifications yet, those belts. So, but he had it for the second longest in the history of middleweights. Basically, 7 years he had it the whole time, and in the 7 years he was the lineal champion. He defended. He had 9 defenses. All right. So his pro career was amazing. In his amateur career, in his pro career, he started off really good. He won in 1966. He won the Argentinian middleweight title for his country. So he was the country's champion in 66. 67, he won the South American middleweight title. So he added that to that other title. And then he had reeled off a bunch of wins and finally got a shot at the title November 7th, 1970, where he fought for the unified middleweight championship of the world versus a guy named Nino Benvenuti. I believe he's Italian. Benvenuti. I do remember Benvenuti. I never saw him fight live, but I do remember him. I started watching Monzón usually around, I think it was around 72 or 73. So he was already he already had the belts when I started watching him as a kid, right? So apparently this Benvenuti, Nino Benvenuti, is a really good fighter. He won an Olympic gold medal. Fantastic, like really good fighter, man. So Monzón was a big underdog in the fight, the first one, and he beat him. It was a big upset. All right. So that's a fight, you guys, all you talking fight fans, Neil the Deal fans out there, might want to check out the Monzón Benvenuti first fight. He did have a second rematch against Benvenuti, and he beat him again, unanimous decision. So he got the best of him twice, which is pretty impressive because not too many guys got up on that Nino guy. He was a serious cat. So that was a big upset right there. Right there. He started that off. Then in 71, he beat a guy named Emil Griffith. Graham, you ever heard of this guy, Emil Griffith, the 3-time world middleweight champion?
Nope.
No, okay. That's okay. I understand. He beat him, and not too many people beat Griffith. Look at Griffith, Emil Griffith. His career is the 3-time champion, and I think he only got knocked down once in his whole career. I think he only lost maybe 2 or 3, and one of them was, or 2 of them were from Monzón. Monzón fought him twice, and he beat him both times. So that's really impressive. Beating a 3-time world champion twice. So in 1971, he did that, and then in 75, he had to relinquish the WBC belt due to not offering to fight the #1 mandatory contender. We've had that issue before, Graham. We've talked about that, right? If you don't fight the mandatory #1 contender after a specific amount of time determined by the sanctioning body, then you are obligated, have to relinquish the title and put it up as a vacant title for #1 and #2 contender to battle it out for. You know what I mean? So he relinquished the WBC, but he retained the WBA title. And then he went on to fight. He kept fighting. You know what I mean? So he ended up, he did that, and then in 1977 was his last fight. He decided to retire, and he was the undisputed middleweight champion of the world when he did that. So he was, his whole career, he was the champ, basically, other than the first couple of years. But as soon as he got those belts, he had them for the duration of his career. So that in itself is amazing. So after that, he retired with that crazy record of his, and he started getting into TV and film and stuff, but that really didn't work out. He wasn't very successful with it. I mean, there were a few small spots in some Argentinian local movies and TV shows and stuff, but he never really got his foot in the door there. And then apparently he started getting a little bit loose in the marbles, if you know what I mean. Like he started losing his marbles, I guess, and he started getting pretty violent with the paparazzi, Graham, and family members, and he just started getting out of control. He really was a hothead, like a tempered guy. He had a pretty bad temper. Like, I mean, some fighters have a bad temper, I guess, you know. So, well, in the end, he ended up his temper got the best of him, and he actually murdered his wife. Was convicted and sentenced to 11 years in Argentinian jail. And on an outing in 1995, January 1995, he got a day pass from jail. He went to visit his family. He did the visit. On the way back, there were 4 people in a vehicle that crashed, and he was killed in that car crash in 1995. So going back to jail. So that's kind of ironic how that happened, I guess. You know, what are you going to do, right? So 2 people in the car lived and 2 died, apparently. And unfortunately, Carlos was one that passed away. So rest in peace, Carlos. You had a fantastic career. Amazing fighter. Like any of his fights, Graham, the big ones were like he's amazing. Like he's really amazing. So you got to check this Monzón, Carlos Monzón out. He was probably one of the best middleweights ever, if not the best. Well, apparently, I believe that it was Ring Magazine that said he was the second best middleweight of all time, Graham. The only middleweight that they ranked higher than him was Sugar Ray Robinson. So he's higher than Hagler, Hearns, all the big names. He's even bigger than them. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. So let's go through a bit of the awards that he had just to let you know out there in Talking Fight Land, Neil the Deal Land. And again, thanks for the likes. If you like, you should like to share them with your friends, make a few comments, and tell your friends to subscribe. That always helps. You know, we get a little more fans on the show. Really big show and really big guests. You know. All right. So he was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame, 1990. All right. In 2011, he was ranked the best middleweight title holder of all time by Ring Magazine. Also in 2012, Ring Magazine had him as the 11th greatest fighter in the last 80 years. So 11th overall in the last 80 years. That's that's pretty amazing. BoxRec had him as second best middleweight of all time, only behind Sugar Ray Robinson, like we had just talked about. He was undefeated, Graham, in his last 81 fights of his career. Undefeated, 81 straight, went 81-0. Wow. Wow. So he only lost 3 fights, and they were early on in his career. After that, finished. Like, done, did it. You're done. He's 81-0. Whoa. And he defended his title 14 times with 11 different opponents, right? So those stats are I don't know what to tell you about that. That's amazing. Unbelievable. And he's a Hall of Famer and the 11th best fighter of all time. So guys, Monzón, I know you probably never heard of the guy, but check him out, guys. You'll enjoy the fights. He's really good. So we'll go over a quick couple notable fights you guys can check out. We got Monzón again. We talked about it against Benavuti. He fought him twice. He fought Emil Griffith twice. You should check out the Griffith Monzón fights. And he fought a U.S. guy that I watched a bunch of fights, and I really liked. His name was Tom Bethea. Tom Bethea was an American, and he won the title here and there. You know what I mean? Before that Monzón had it, I believe he had it once or something. He lost it to somebody else, and it ended up in Monzón's hand. He probably lost it to Benavuti, right? Something like that. So, you know, rest in peace, Carlos. That's all I got to tell you, buddy. I loved watching you fight. You're awesome. I'd like all you guys to know that he's probably going to make the top 10, the Neil the Deal top 10. He was a secret weapon I was saving for you guys. I knew you wouldn't know who he is. Well, some guys might, but he, like, look at the stats on that guy and look at the way he displayed himself in the ring. And any middleweight in the world will tell you he's probably he's in the top 5 in everybody's category. So thanks a lot for coming out. Carlos, take care of yourself. Rest in peace, buddy. God bless you. Graham, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. And I guess we're gonna this weekend watch my team, the Kansas City Chiefs, go back to back in the Super Bowl. Tom Brady, for the 10th time, is not winning. I don't think so. You're not beating the boys. You guys are done. So Brady, whatever, you're done. That's my prediction. Put all your money on my team. We're taking it down. Whatever it is, Brady's finished. So have yourselves a good night. We'll see you tomorrow at 7. Graham, take care of yourself. Thanks a lot for coming out, guys. Cheers.
Thanks very much, Neil. We'll see you tomorrow night.